Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. It is truly good to have you here with us. Senate Republicans delay their health care vote until after the July 4th recess, and pro-life leaders are closely monitoring the negotiations. The House of Representatives passed a health care bill in May with two major pro-life protections. It stops tax dollars from going to health insurance plans that cover abortion, and second, it defunds Planned Parenthood of more than $400 million tax dollars. The Senate version of the health care bill has pro-life protections, but the senators are under immense pressure to cave on these provisions. In Georgia, it's a pro-life victory despite Planned Parenthood pouring in over $700,000 into the state's special election. Karen Handel beat John Ossoff in the most expensive House race ever last week. Handel has a pro-life history. She is a former executive of the Susan G. Komen for the Cure and resigned because the group did not cut funding to Planned Parenthood, America's largest abortion provider that does not provide mammograms. We're joined now by Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List, to break down the top pro-life news. Marjorie, thanks for being here.
I'm always loving this show.
The health care bill has been delayed. What's at stake here? What are you closely monitoring now?
Well, there are two top priorities for the pro-life movement in this bill, and that is the defund and reallocation of Planned Parenthood's resources to community health centers. The second is very important, not getting as much highlighting, and that is vital to the pro-life movement, that there be HIDE protections, that none of those funds be used to support health care plans that provide abortions. So this is vital. That piece of it we're still working on. The delay was okay.
Those HIDE protections are not getting as much attention as you mentioned. So often we hear defund Planned Parenthood, but there is more to it.
There is more to it. There's a good reason we've been hearing about Planned Parenthood because of the scandal and the horror that we've been seeing. However, when you think about the fact that Obamacare really was provided the biggest change and the biggest increase in abortion since Roe versus Wade, it still is the case. Over 1,000 plans cover abortions in this country. So when we're passing something new, we need to make sure that that money, our money, is not being used to take away the lives of unborn children. It's really that simple.
The House's version of the health care bill did contain these pro-life protections. Why is the Senate's version more at risk?
Well, it's very complicated, and it sounds inside the Beltway E, but what it really comes down to is it's a type of bill in the Senate. The rules of the Senate and the rules of this bill say that it has to have major budgetary impact. So the reason that the Hyde Amendment language can't stick to that one piece of it is that it's shown by the parliamentarian, or she believes that it doesn't have that. It's not a lack of will on the part of Republicans, no. It is now a matter of creativity, making sure that we draft this in a way that actually does protect taxpayers and unborn children.
I want to get your reaction now to Karen Handel's victory in Georgia. Planned Parenthood poured in more than $700,000, and she still won. What message does this send? Well,
I think the top line message is don't ever run with Planned Parenthood as your running mate. They're a terrible running mate. And why is that? Because of what you just said a minute ago. They have been exposed. Their scandal has been highlighted. It is very different from Planned Parenthood 10 years ago where nobody knew what they were up to. So much money was spent on the other side by Planned Parenthood. She was completely outspent. Wow. It was a very close race last time around, so this was not a kind of a watershed, obvious victory for a Republican in this district. They pinned everything on it, and they lost big time, and so did Planned Parenthood, and that is good news.
And Karen Handel has quite the pro-life history as well.
She does indeed. She wrote a book called Planned Bullyhood based on her experience when she was at Susan G. Komen. They decided to take those funds away from Planned Parenthood regarding mammograms because they weren't doing that job.
Right.
They viciously attacked Karen. They viciously attacked Susan G. Komen. What a great organization. And then she wrote about it. So they knew that she was public enemy #1 for Planned Parenthood. And guess what? What a victory that she revealed them in that book, but revealed them in her election.
We'll see what she does when she's here in Washington.
Can't wait.
Dannenfelser, thank you so much for your insight on this.
Thank you.
As the U.S. Senate continues to negotiate their health care bill, pro-lifers must make their voices heard. The House of Representatives passed a health care bill last month that does two important things. First, it stops American tax dollars from going to health insurance plans that cover abortion. And second, it defunds Planned Parenthood of more than $400 million of our tax dollars. Now the Senate must pass a health care bill that does both of these things. Because Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry are putting immense pressure on wavering senators, it is urgent both of your U.S. senators hear from you right now. For this week's call to action, go to prolifeweekly.com. Once you type in the web address into your internet browser, you will type in your name and personal information. So the message is personalized for your senators. And click submit. That's it. It's that simple. Take this action and you will add your name to the petition that tells the U.S. Senate to stop using our tax dollars for abortion in the healthcare bill. It is up to each of us as defenders of life to make our voices heard during this urgent time. Once again, sign the petition at prolifeweekly.com and share this call to action with your friends and neighbors. New legislation on the beginning of human life has been revealed on Capitol Hill this week. Alabama Senator Luther Strange released the Sanctity of Life Act on Wednesday. Senator Luther Strange joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator, thank you for your time.
Glad to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us, what exactly is in the Sanctity of Life Act?
Well, I'm proud to sponsor and introduce in the Senate the Sanctity of Life Act. It's a bill that would define life as beginning at fertilization. It's a very important step in protecting the sanctity of life. And I'm very happy to be sponsoring that and starting to add co-sponsors to that process.
Excellent. Senator, you are also an attorney. Make the argument why even fellow senators who disagree with you on the abortion issue should support the Sanctity of Life Act.
Well, I feel very strongly, obviously, about life and it beginning at fertilization. This gives us a position that's consistent with the 14th Amendment, protection individual liberties and rights. And so we'll have to make the case, of course, because there's a very strong group on the other side that will resist this kind of law. But we've come to be used to that. I think we're making progress in the courts. This will assist in that effort greatly.
On a different pro-life topic, Senator, the vote for the health care bill is now going to happen after the July 4th recess. If both pro-life protections are not included, defunding Planned Parenthood and keeping high protections in place, how will you vote for the health care bill?
Well, I would be unable to support the health care bill if it doesn't keep in place the protections for the unborn. And so I'm working very hard along with my conservative colleagues, those of us who believe in the pro-life position, to ensure that that's in there. So we'll be opposing any funding for Planned Parenthood. We'll be trying to get that money to community health clinics to protect women's health. And we'll be very strongly supportive of the Hyde Amendment, which I know your viewers are very familiar with, to ensure that that remains in effect in the health care revisions.
Senator, you've released the Sanctity of Life Act. How else are you trying to spearhead the pro-life cause within the Senate?
Well, we're trying to do everything we possibly can, including introducing standalone bills, as I've discussed, protecting the right to life in the upcoming health care revision, appointing judges to the courts who believe in the Constitution and the sanctity of life, and then going back in and repealing portions of the existing law that affect our individual religious liberties. So as Attorney General, I had an opportunity to sue the federal government gladly to protect our religious liberties as they were affected by the so-called Affordable Care Act, and I look forward to repealing those restrictions on our religious liberties.
Senator Luther Strange of Alabama, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
In more pro-life news, the Supreme Court will not reinstate a botched execution lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed by the brother of Oklahoma man Clayton Lockett, whose botched death penalty execution in 2014 lasted nearly 45 minutes. The Supreme Court justices left the lower court rulings in place, dismissing the suit. An investigation determined the 2014 execution team did not have the proper equipment and an intravenous line was not properly set, resulting in the execution drugs being injected into Lockett's tissue instead of his bloodstream. The judge involved in the abortionist Kermit Gosnell case sues the creators behind the recent Gosnell book and upcoming Gosnell movie. Judge Jeffrey Meinhardt, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, is alleging defamation in the book Gosnell, the untold story of America's most prolific serial killer. The book was co-authored by a married pair of journalists, Ann McElhinney and Phelim McAleer. The suit says the book portrays Meinhardt as soft on crime and cites 4 claims the complaint says are false. Meinhardt is seeking an injunction to block the sale of the book and halts the release of the movie unless the alleged false claims are omitted. In a statement to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, McAleer wouldn't comment on the book, saying it's a legal matter for Regnery Publishing, but says this about the allegations against the upcoming movie. Gosnell is a case about cover-ups by the health department and by the media, and now a judge is trying it. Meinhardt may be a judge, but he needs to study his constitutional law books. We have a First Amendment right to artistic expression. It's sickening, and he can expect a vigorous legal response. The cover-up stops here. Abortionist Kermit Gosnell, whom the book and movie are based on, is currently serving life in prison for first-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. Pro-lifers in Maryland gathered together last week for the Maryland Right to Life Banquet. The annual event featured pro-life leaders, local pro-life politicians, and Auxiliary Bishop of Baltimore, Bishop Dennis Madden. The guest of honor was Catholic U.S. Representative Andy Harris of Maryland. His late wife, Cookie Harris, was actively involved in the Maryland Right to Life and a key organizer of the annual event, up until her sudden death nearly 3 years ago. Congressman Harris says he still tries to come to the pro-life banquet every year.
But I try to be here, remind people how important it is to stay involved. This year, of course, it's so exciting because we have a pro-life president, a pro-life House, and a pro-life Senate. So I think everything's lined up for life and the value of life and the culture of life in America right now. So I hope we take advantage of it.
Harris is a father of 5 and a grandfather of 6. He says those experiences have also shaped his pro-life passion. June marks Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. More than 5 million Americans are living with this form of dementia that causes problems with the memory, thinking, and behavior. In the search for an Alzheimer's cure, researchers often advocate for human embryonic stem cell research. Where does this leave pro-life Catholics who want to cure Alzheimer's but oppose the destruction of human embryos for research? We're joined now by Dr. David Prentice, the Vice President and Research Director of the Charlotte Lozier Institute, a pro-life research tank, and Lucia Silecchia, a professor of law at the Catholic University of America and expert on elder law. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Prentice, Alzheimer's is such a personal issue for many, so many of us firsthand witness this disease. Is there any research out there for a cure for Alzheimer's that pro-lifers can support?
Well, you're right, Catherine. It's tragic, not just for the individual, but for their family and loved ones, whom it also affects. The good news is there are glimmers of hope now. In fact, several clinical trials just started with adult stem cells that show some promise in the early stages of being able to at least ameliorate some of the problems with Alzheimer's. And not just that, but also other neurological conditions. So we're looking at trials for stroke, for ALS, as well as for traumatic brain injury, which could obviously help our armed forces people as well. Right. And again, it's being done with ethical adult stem cells.
Why does the Church oppose embryonic stem cell research and also fetal tissue research?
Right, and the short answer is simply that embryonic stem cells, aborted fetal tissue, these come from the destruction, the willful destruction of young human lives, which obviously we don't need to do. We shouldn't look to that as a resource. We should be considering ethical alternatives like adult stem cells.
Absolutely. Lucia, in addition to Alzheimer's awareness this month, there is also the UN-designated World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, recognized on June 15th. According to the Justice Department, 10% of seniors are abused each year. You've written on this. What more do we know about this startling statistic?
Well, partly it's very difficult to know because these cases are very underreported. It's estimated that only 1 out of every 23 cases actually comes to light. In that 10%, we have multiple types of abuse. Financial abuse was the theme of this year's World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. People taking advantage of those who are elderly and the resources that they have, but also physical abuse, psychological abuse, and neglect. And what we're learning about who does that is that very often it will be strangers, it will be professional caregivers, staff at institutions, but often, as with child abuse, it happens within the family as well. And the majority, in fact, may well be family members, which adds to that betrayal.
We absolutely need to draw attention to this. Why is care for the elderly, whether they are suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia or not, why is this increasingly important in our day and age?
For a few reasons. First, just demographically, the population over the age of 65 is growing rapidly, and it's estimated that it will double between 2012 and 2050, both in raw numbers but also as a percentage. Second, one of the things I'm particularly concerned about within the last 5 years is we've seen this steady rise in a push for assisted suicide, and that will target nobody more than the elderly. Right. And so at the same time, we're making wonderful advances in medical care. At the same time, we're also adopting laws that allow us to destroy the most vulnerable people, who are the elderly. And that's a matter of great concern.
Dr. Prentice, back to caring for our elderly who are suffering from Alzheimer's. For Catholics who want to advocate for research for a cure, what advice might you give them? How can they navigate this research with so much focus on embryonic stem cell research?
Well, I think the first thing they ought to do is pray for those researchers who are using the ethical alternatives, that research would be successful and be able to move quickly into the clinic. In terms of who to pray for, as well as who to support, I'd suggest that they contact the National Catholic Bioethics Center.
Okay. Excellent, excellent advice to share with our viewers. And Lucia, what are practical ways that our viewers can care for the aging population in a loving and compassionate response?
I think first it's important to remember that the elderly is all of us in the blink of an eye. And so when we take a look at caring for our elders, we're also talking about the world that I want when I'm in that same group.
That's right.
There's no substitute for presence, and I think as families get smaller and more scattered, making sure that those people within our own family are cared for, that we recognize that the family is a covenant between generations, but also beyond our family, that there are many people who are elderly and alone and that we can reach out to in our communities. I think we have to be vigilant about laws like assisted suicide, hospital ethics codes about how the elderly people are treated. And finally, also to take care of caregivers. And there's a lot of bad news out there, but there's also wonderful news about husbands and wives living 50 or 60 years into that vocation of caring for each other in their old age, and children caring for their parents, and people reaching out to strangers, and people working in care facilities like the Little Sisters of the Poor with so much love and compassion, but making sure that we take care of those people as well who are caring for their elders. And I think finally also to really appreciate our elder sisters and brothers, and not just what we give to them, but the treasure that we're ignoring if we don't make sure that we keep our elders in the heart of our communities and our families.
The unborn and the elderly, they are the bookends of life that we must protect. Dr. Prentice, Lucia Szeltner, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
One restaurant in Tokyo is reaching out to those suffering from memory loss and giving their customers an opportunity for patience and understanding. It's called the Restaurant of Order Mistakes, an unlikely name for an eatery, but all the waiters and waitresses have dementia. The restaurant popped up for 2 days in Japan recently to change people's perception of those suffering from brain diseases. Customers might get something they did not order, but you can see how the waiters and waitresses enjoy the work and can still participate in society. This pop-up restaurant will be reopened in September to commemorate International Alzheimer's Day. When we come back,
this is a battle between spiritual principalities.
We show you the active role prayer plays in fighting abortion and how you can be involved. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. We must spread a culture of life. Pope Francis's very own words this week as he met with an Italian group that strives to prevent cancer and provide patient support. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner. Planned Parenthood is distorting faith and religion to fundraise for their abortion business. Take a look at this.
My name is Reverend Timothy McDonald III.
Rabbi Lori Kaufman.
Reverend Darcy Roque.
Pastor Earl Fisher.
And I stand with Planned Parenthood.
It is our role as children of God to care for our fellow men and women.
When people of faith speak up for reproductive justice, compassion becomes the order of the day.
This video featuring 4 different faith leaders was recently uploaded onto Planned Parenthood's YouTube page. To be clear, none of the people featured here are Catholic. This is a scandalous and deceitful attempt by Planned Parenthood to manipulate people of faith into supporting their abortion business. As a Roman Catholic, I respect other religions and support the freedom of religion. But when the largest abortion provider twists God's commandments and Jesus' words, we need to speak out about it and bring this to the light. If we're talking faith and abortion here, don't conveniently forget the 6th commandment, thou shalt not kill, or clear biblical references to unborn life. Truly, children are a gift from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Psalm 127:3. You knit me in my mother's womb. Psalm 139:13. I am grateful to be in a church that will defend every single human being's life. Whether you are unborn, disabled, homeless, or elderly, the Catholic Church will defend your right to life. To walk along with a woman during an unplanned pregnancy and to protect her child's life, that is true compassion. After all, Jesus Christ himself first came to the world as an unborn child. Remember, you have a role to play in countering today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Go to prolifeweekly.com to add your name to the petition that tells the U.S. Senate to stop using our tax dollars for abortion in the healthcare bill. She may not have a cape, but many are calling her a real-life Wonder Woman. Alicia Montano let nothing keep her from competing at the USA Track and Field Outdoor Championships in California last week. Not the 110-degree temperature or the fact that she's 5 months pregnant. She's done it before too. 31-year-old Montano raced at 8 months pregnant in 2014 when she was expecting her first child. What a strong woman. Pregnant moms will get a kick out of this next story. Venezuelan professional soccer team Estudiantes de Caracas placed sensors on the stomachs of pregnant moms to track the amount of kicks from their 28-week-old preborn babies. The event was held so parents would be encouraged to enroll their kids into a soccer academy. That's the future generation of soccer superstars right there. Here in Washington, D.C., pro-life lawmakers battle on Capitol Hill for life-affirming legislation. But there is another battle going on in the pro-life movement, one that is unseen. This week, we examine how being a prayerful witness can be the most powerful way to stop abortion.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed.
The Hail Mary is a common prayer inside Catholic church walls. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now. But it's also necessary outside these walls.
This is a battle between spiritual principalities. I think it's imperative for us to come and be at the foot of the cross and pray.
Father Stephen Imbarado, a member of Priests for Life and co-host of EWTN's Defending Life series, has a spiritual perspective on the pro-life movement.
Here at the abortion mill, you really cannot pray without understanding that babies are being slaughtered here, babies are being dismembered here. And so to pray to end abortion, I really think you need to come and experience what's going on, be at the scene of the crime, so to speak.
Aside from the unseen divine benefits, praying outside abortion clinics has also proven clear results. Lauren Handy has witnessed 19 women turn around and leave clinics since Ash Wednesday of this year.
The power of prayer works.
As a frequent sidewalk counselor, she recommends sharing these 3 important messages with women on the short walk from their car to the abortion clinic door.
It's not too late. You are allowed to cancel your appointment, and you are allowed to change your mind. Those 3 things are the most important things you could say because it combats the 3 lies Planned Parenthood tells these women.
Handy frequently prays the Divine Mercy Chaplet and what's known as Mother Teresa's Novena, 9 memorares in a row.
When I do pray that, a miracle happens. Many miracles have happened by praying Mother Teresa's Novena. I've had 4 workers contact me saying that the power of prayer led me to quit the abortion industry.
It's a powerful testimony supported by others who have quit the abortion industry. Sue Thayer used to be a manager of a Planned Parenthood clinic. She has this to say about the role of pro-lifers praying outside abortion centers.
But, you know, it blesses them, and it certainly blesses the women going in and out. But the workers, I think, are really impacted by that, because when there's somebody outside praying, it's like the light of Jesus is there, and it wreaks havoc inside.
If you're interested in putting your hands together in prayer outside of a Planned Parenthood, Father Imperato suggests getting involved with 40 Days for Life, not going to a clinic alone, and to always being prayerful.
Always loving, always caring, always compassionate, never judgmental, never accusatory. We need to be rooted, for us Catholics, in the sacraments, the sacrament of reconciliation, the sacrament of the Eucharist, adoration before the Blessed Sacrament, rosary every single day, be rooted in prayer, the contemplative aspect of our spiritual life, so we are fortified, we're armed to go out then and stand at the gates of hell and battle this evil, which is abortion.
That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. You can reach us anytime with questions, ideas, comments at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. See you here next week. I look forward to it. Life is a gift. God bless.